Which one is don't bend and look in between your legs in the market in this economy? Ha! Every time, one superstition or another, some Kichi wondered stubbornly after hearing the market women's warnings. Welcome to Treeside Tales, a home of unique African folk tales. If stubbornness was a human being, her name would be Some Kichi. From childhood, that girl had been collecting warnings like souvenirs, only to ignore every single one of them. If you told Some Kichi not to play in the rain, she'd ask why thunder hadn't killed the rest of the neighborhood kids first. If you warned her not to touch the masquerade costume in her uncle's room, she'd wait until midnight, creep in like a thief, and try it on just to see how it feels. So, on that Thursday, the kind of dry, sweaty market day where even the flies looked tired, it should have surprised no one that she would ignore another warning. But this one wasn't your regular "don't eat the last piece of meat" kind of warning. This was different. That morning, Some Kichi's mother had dragged her to Afur Market to help with shopping. The sun was already stabbing people in the face, and the crowd was thick with noise hawkers shouting prices, women bargaining like their lives depended on it, and goats screaming their own protests. Somewhere near the vegetable stalls, while waiting for her mother to finish arguing over a bunch of scent leaves, Some Kichi overheard three elderly women whispering. Their backs were bent like question marks, wrappers faded and soft from time. One had cola-stained lips, another wore a necklace of tiny gourds, but it was the third, the one with eyes like cold charcoal, who said it. Don't ever try it. One of them said, if you bend down and look through your legs in a market like this, you won't like what you'll see. Some Kichi's ears perked up. Why? What will you see? Spirits. The ones hiding among us. You'll see their real forms. Some people never come back normal after trying it. Now, that would have scared a normal person. But Some Kichi, she smirked. I beg, spirits in this economy, she mumbled to herself. She waited until her mother got distracted arguing about change with a fish seller. Then she slowly walked away toward a quiet corner behind a plantain seller's table. She looked left, looked right, then, with the kind of excitement that only foolishness can provide, she bent forward and looked between her legs. At first, it was funny. The world looked upside down. Her skirt was falling over her head, and she nearly laughed. But then, silence. The market noise disappeared completely. She froze. The crowd was gone. Where hundreds of people once stood were now pale figures walking in slow, jerky movements. Some had missing faces. Others had arms too long to be human. A woman with no eyes was slicing yam into a basket full of dark worms. The smell of Afur Market's onions was replaced by the stench of wet earth. And then one of them, a tall, bony man with a stitched mouth, turned and looked directly at her. He saw her. Some Kichi screamed and snapped upright, but the world wasn't the same anymore. Some Kichi stood frozen, her heart galloping like a masquerade dancer late to the village square. The moment she straightened up, the noise of the market rushed back, like someone had unmuted the world. Hawkers shouted, pots clanged, goats resumed their choir, and her mother was still mid-argument with the fish seller, as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Some Kichi's eyes darted around. The plantain seller beside her looked normal again. The air smelled of fried groundnut, not damp earth. People were laughing, chewing suya, haggling, existing, but she wasn't laughing because she knew what she saw. And worse, someone or something had seen her. Too, she spotted the tall, bony man again. Now he looked completely ordinary, selling red oil beside a woman with a baby on her back. But Some Kichi wasn't fooled. His eyes, though now human, still held that empty darkness. And the worst part, he was smiling at her. She didn't walk away. She ran. She sprinted through baskets of tomatoes, knocked over a pile of okra, almost stepped on a goat, and didn't stop until she found her mother near the pepper stall. Where did you run off to? Her mother barked. I was checking the price of onions. Some Kichi stammered, trying to catch her breath. Her mother didn't buy it. Since when do you care about onion prices? You that doesn't even know how to boil rice. Some Kichi gave a weak smile, but her eyes kept drifting back toward the spot where she had seen that stitched-mouthed man. He was gone. For the rest of the day, she stuck to her mother's side like body lotion. When they finally got home, she slammed the door, locked it, and, for extra safety, placed her father's old Bible on top of the doorframe. She didn't know if that helped. But in the movies, it always looked like a good idea. By evening, her younger brother came into her room with a frown. Why are you acting weird? He asked. I'm not, she snapped. You didn't even fight with Mommy during dinner. That's how I know something is wrong. Some Kichi didn't answer. Her stomach was still doing backflips. She had seen things today, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something had come back with her. And she was right, because that night, as she lay in bed, she heard footsteps, slow, careful, inside the house, but everyone else was asleep. She opened her eyes. The door to her room creaked, and standing there in the shadows was a man, tall, too tall. In the darkness, she could just make out something horrifying. His mouth was stitched shut. Some Kichi blinked once, twice. The tall figure was still there, standing in the faint light from the hallway. still, silent, and stitched, like a tailor ran out of fabric and used thread on his face instead. She wanted to scream, but her throat betrayed her. Nothing came out, not even a whisper. Her voice was trapped somewhere between her ribs and regret. She yanked her blanket over her head. Yes, the blanket protection spell, every Nigerian child's first defense against demons, ghosts, and angry mothers with slippers. She waited 1 second, 10 seconds, 30, silence. Then, tap, not a knock, not a bang, a tap from the inside of her blanket, right by her ear. Somkichi flung the blanket off and jumped out of bed like her mattress was on fire. She didn't wait to confirm what she saw. She ran, and she didn't run like a human being. No, she flew like one of those women in church dramas who see a demon by the window. She burst into her parents' room without knocking. "Mommy, wake up. Wake up," she shouted, shaking her mother like she was trying to restart her soul. Her father sat up too, eyes half closed. "Somkichi, what is it? Did something bite you?" "Yes, no, not something. Someone. He's in the house." Tall man, stitched mouth, black eyes. Her parents exchanged a slow, concerned glance, the kind parents give when they're trying to decide between calling a doctor or a pastor. "Maybe you had a bad dream," her mother said gently. Somkichi shook her head. "No, I saw him in the market today. I looked between my legs and..." She paused. Saying it out loud sounded mad. Her father sighed. "See now, you see your life. Why are you so stubborn? Go to your room and deal with whatever you have invited from the market." "You did well," her mother said. "Clap for yourself. Please go back to your room and pray. Sleep. If you like, see another one. Maybe after this one, you will learn to obey the rules." "Mommy, good night." Somkichi. She stood there, defeated and terrified. Eventually, she tiptoed back to her room. Lights on, blanket kicked far under the bed. She didn't trust it anymore. She sat on her bed, back against the wall, clutching her Bible like it was a grenade. She stood slowly, knees trembling like soaked plantain leaves, and backed toward the door. Her heart thumped so loud she could hear it echoing in her ears. She wanted to scream again, but fear had rooted itself in her lungs. She flung the door open. The hallway was dark, silent. Her parents' room was just 2 doors away, but suddenly the corridor felt too long, like it had stretched, swallowing all sense of space. She took a step, the floor creaked. Another step, then the sound of dragging feet behind her. She turned nothing, yet the sound persisted. And then a whisper, right by her ear. "I see you now." She ran, truly ran. She burst into her parents' room again, crying out. But the bed was empty, sheets folded, pillows untouched, no sign of them ever being there. No clothes, no smell, no indentation in the mattress, as if they had never existed. She staggered backward, gasping. Was she dreaming? Was this still the market? Had she ever really left? And then, from behind her, a low voice spoke. "You opened the veil, Somkichi. Now walk in it." Somkichi turned slowly. The voice was behind her, but there was no one in the room. No shadow, no shape, just cold. The kind of cold that didn't come from breeze or rain. It was a spiritual cold, the type you feel in your bones when something ancient is near. Her teeth chattered. Her breath came out in shallow gasps. "You opened the veil, Somkichi." The voice again, this time closer. She backed into the wall, her palms flat against it as if trying to disappear into the concrete. Her eyes scanned the room wildly. Still no sign of her parents. No sign of Amma, just the ticking wall clock. Frozen at 3:33. Time had stopped. Or maybe it no longer existed where she was. Her mind screamed to wake up, but her body knew this wasn't a dream. This was real. She stepped out into the hallway again. Darkness. But this time, the house wasn't the same. The photos on the wall had changed. Their faces scratched out. The painting in the hallway, the one of her family in Arochukwu last December, now showed only her, standing alone with black figures looming in the background. She covered her mouth to keep from sobbing. What had she done? Was this because of a stupid dare? A simple glance between her legs, she reached for the front door, flung it open, and staggered back in horror. It wasn't her street outside. It was the market, not the noisy, bustling Afur market she knew. This one was gray, silent. The stalls stood empty, roofs torn. The traders were still there, but not alive. They stood like statues, their skin pale as ash, their mouths stitched shut, facing away from her. All of them, every single one. She tried to step backward, but the house behind her was gone. In its place stood a broken stall with a mirror nailed to its wooden frame. And there, in the reflection, she wasn't Somkichi anymore. Her mouth was stitched shut, her eyes were hollow and black. And standing behind her reflection was the same tall man from the market, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. She spun around. No one. But now the stitched traders had turned, one by one, and they were walking toward her. No footsteps, no noise, just movement. Her legs wouldn't move. Her voice couldn't scream. She was trapped, caught in the space between two worlds. The veil was open, and Somkichi was no longer a visitor. She was part of it now. Somkichi's breath grew shallow. The stitched traders were still walking slow, steady, unblinking. No rage, no panic, just silent certainty, as if they had waited centuries for her arrival. She turned and ran. But where to? The market had twisted. The stalls looped endlessly, each path leading back to where she began. A mother with a baby tied to her back rocked slowly in one corner, humming a song some Kichi didn't recognize, or perhaps she did, but had only heard it in nightmares. The air thickened. The sky above was no longer a sky. It pulsed like a beating heart, gray and wet, thudding with every second she remained in this place. She stopped near a burnt-out suya stand, her legs shaking. That's when she saw the first other human, a girl, no older than 16, crouched beside a broken stall, whispering to herself. "Hey," some Kichi called, rushing to her. "Please, where are we? How do I get out of here?" The girl didn't answer immediately. She was hugging her knees, eyes wide with terror, skin pale like cold chalk. When she finally looked up, her voice was cracked and hollow. "You looked, didn't you?" she asked. Some Kichi nodded, trembling. "Yes, I looked through my legs." The girl blinked. "Me too. 4 years ago." Some Kichi staggered back. "What? No, that's not possible. No one leaves here," the girl said quietly. "Not unless the market gives you back." "The market?" Some Kichi asked. "You mean this place decides who leaves?" "Yes," the girl whispered. "It's alive. It feeds on sight. Once you see it, it sees you." Some Kichi's hands trembled. "There has to be a way. Someone." The girl shook her head slowly. "Some say if you make an exchange, you might return." "What kind of exchange?" The girl didn't answer. She only pointed behind Some Kichi. Some Kichi turned. The tall man was back, no longer distant, right behind her, but now his mouth was no longer stitched. The threads dangled loose from his chin, soaked in black. And he spoke, "Give me someone else. Someone who has not seen, and you may go." Some Kichi froze. The market began to hum, voices rising, wind howling, the heart-like sky above thudding faster. He leaned forward. "Choose before the night ends, or remain as you are." She shook her head. No, I can't do that." But the traders were moving again, circling her like vultures. Closer now, their stitched mouths twisting into something almost like smiles. The girl beside her had disappeared. And the only question left in Some Kichi's mind now was, could she live with what it takes to escape, or die knowing she refused? The market pulsed around her, alive and waiting. The stitched traders now stood in a wide circle around Some Kichi, unmoving, eyes blank but somehow filled with expectation. The tall man's voice still echoed in her ears. "Give me someone else, someone who has not seen, and you may go." Some Kichi shook her head slowly, disbelief and horror churning in her chest. "That's wickedness," she said under her breath. He stared at her, those void dark eyes unblinking. "Wickedness is relative," he murmured. "Freedom is never free." She turned, backing away slowly, her hands raised. "I won't do it. I won't sacrifice someone else for my mistake." But the man only smiled. And from the ground beneath her feet, voices began to rise, dozens of them, whispering, groaning, pleading. Some sounded like children, others like old men. "I said no," she shouted. And for the first time, the stitched traders moved, not just walking, but reaching, hands stretched toward her, long, pale fingers like bones wrapped in thin cloths. One touched her arm, cold. Another reached for her hair. Some Kichi screamed and spun around, running blindly, her feet pounding the dust of that cursed market. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to keep moving. She darted past a stall selling cracked mirrors, past a table filled with dolls made of twine and ash. The shadows chased her, not just the traders, but the market itself. It kept folding, rearranging, no matter where she turned. The same face appeared again, the tall man, now walking toward her with terrifying calm. And then she saw it, a gate. Tall, rusted, covered in dried palm fronds and bones of animals she couldn't name. But it was open just enough for her to slip through. Her heart leapt. She ran, but just before she reached it, a voice stopped her cold. "Sumi." She froze. The voice wasn't from the market. It was familiar. It was her brother, Amaichi. She turned around and saw him just inside the market's edge, standing barefoot, wearing his school uniform, eyes wide with fear. "Sumi," he cried. "Where are we? I was looking for you. I saw you disappear after dinner." Her blood turned to ice. He had followed her, or worse. The market had pulled him in. Behind her, the gate hummed. Open. Escape. But the man appeared beside her again, smiling with that cold stillness. "Now you have someone. Will you leave?" Some Kichi stood frozen, torn. The gate. Her brother. The voice in her head screaming, "Choose," because the market would not wait forever. Some Kichi's feet refused to move. The gate behind her seemed to breathe, widening slightly, calling her name in a voice that sounded like her late grandmother's. But in front of her, Amaichi stood confused, frightened, real, her little brother. He took a hesitant step forward. "Sumi, please don't leave me here." Some Kichi's chest tightened. He didn't understand. How could he? "You're not supposed to be here," she whispered. "You weren't meant to see this." "I just wanted to find you," he said. "I saw your door open." Then everything went dark. Behind her, the tall man watched in silence. The traders circled. The market pulsed louder. "Choose." That word pounded in her head like a drum. Some Kichi looked at her brother. The boy who used to cry if she didn't walk him to the gate for school, who once gave her his meat just to make her smile, who never stopped calling her Sumi, no matter how many times she yelled at him. Could she trade him? Walk through that gate and pretend none of this ever happened. Leave him here in a place that devoured souls. No, she couldn't. She stepped away from the gate. No, she said aloud. Take me. Let him go. The market went still. Even the shadows paused. The man tilted his head slightly. Are you certain? I am. You forfeit your life. You become part of this market, a guide, a whisper, a warning. Samkichi nodded, though her body trembled. Just let him go. There was silence. And then the man turned to Amaechi, raised his hand, and snapped his fingers. A sudden wind rushed through the market. Amaechi blinked and vanished. Gone, like he had never been there. Samkichi gasped, stumbling forward. Amaechi. But the man raised his hand again. He is home in his bed. He will wake and forget. He will think it was a dream. Her knees gave way. Tears fell. But not from fear, from peace. She had done the right thing. The market shifted again. The gate closed behind her. The traders began to hum, a low, eerie sound. Some nodded. Others placed their hands on their chests. She had earned her place. A light appeared above one of the stalls, her name written in red chalk. Samkichi, the one who chose love. The tall man offered his hand. Come, he said. Your place is ready. Samkichi rose slowly and stepped into the dark. Samkichi stepped forward, ready to take the tall man's hand. Her heartbeat slowed not from fear, but acceptance. She had made her choice. She had chosen Amaechi, chosen love. The air around her stilled. The pulsing heart sky softened. The humming of the stitched traders faded to silence. Then, from deep within the market, a voice rose, a voice older than language. Not male, not female, just power. She has chosen light, though she was given shadow. The tall man paused, his head turned toward the voice, and for the first time since she had seen him, his expression changed. Regret. No one has ever refused the gate. He whispered. No one has ever stayed behind willingly with a pure heart. Samkichi's chest rose and fell. Then why me? The voice answered. Because mercy still lives here, even in forgotten places. A soft wind blew through the market. The traders bowed their heads. The bones on the stalls crumbled into dust. The sky brightened not blue, but golden, like the very edge of dawn before light breaks fully. And then a path opened, not the rusted gate from before, but a footpath lined with palm fronds and white chalk, glowing softly. At the end of it, a doorway shimmered like heat rising off the earth. She is forgiven, the voice said. The tall man turned to her again. But this time there was no threat in his presence, only quiet reverence. You were warned, he said. Yet you looked, you were offered an escape. And still you stayed. But mercy chooses whom it will. Tears welled in Samkichi's eyes. Her knees trembled. Go, he whispered. Tell them what you saw. Warn them. And never forget the market always watches. She walked. The path beneath her feet warmed with every step. The sounds of the other world faded, replaced by birdsong and the gentle knock of wind against shutters. She woke up in her bed. The morning sun peeked through her window. The clock read 6:12 a.m. Voices filled the house, her mother shouting about the water pump. Amaechi banging a spoon on the table, her father humming off-key as he shaved. Normal, but Samkichi had changed. She stood quietly, touched her lips. Then her heart. She remembered every detail, and she would never forget. Whenever someone laughed off a village warning or dared a taboo just to be funny, she would look at them with eyes far older than her years and softly say, some things are better left unseen. And she meant it. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.